is chaos, and I haven't been working so much on the tarot deck. But I will have some of my own artwork to show at the end of this video, but this week I really wanted to talk a little bit more about tarot itself. And I'm getting warm by this window, so I'm going to turn the heat down and be right back. I'm not a vampire, I just play one on TV. A lot of people think of tarot as inherently this spooky, occult, otherworldly thing, but as I've said in a previous video, it really didn't start out that way. It was kind of co-opted and exotified to make it this integral part of occultism and witchcraft, but it was mostly due to people who wanted something else to talk about to boost their own credentials, make themselves famous. You might have heard that tarot came out of exotic Egypt or Far East, some silliness like that. I don't quite remember the exact century. It started out as an Italian card game, a very large deck for a kind of complicated game, but what we consider a regular deck of cards nowadays is based on a tarot deck in similar form and fashion. And going back to the assumption a lot of people have that it started out as this inherently spooky, occult, witchy thing. In my experience, there are three main ways that people tend to approach it. There are people who identify as pagan, who take it as literally divination, as in communication from the divine, more or less, depending on who that is. There are also more people who believe more in energy, and messages are there if we reach out for them and learn how to view them. So it's more like divination with whatever the universe wants to tell you, things like that. But also I've had friends who have been interested in tarot but aren't really on the spiritual perspective of it. And because of all of the archetypes that it holds, I do also believe it can be approached from a psychological standpoint, such as meditation tools or study tools. I myself have two traditional tarot decks where the art itself isn't really traditional, but it goes by the regular formats that people expect. And I also have something called an oracle deck, which is no set pattern of symbolism. It's more it can be on a theme, it can be on certain practices that people want to use it for, whereas tarot decks are, if they are to be considered the traditional format, are 78 cards. There are 22 what people might consider title cards. They are called the major arcana, and then the rest of it is what a more traditional deck of cards, like playing cards, are based on. And this will be reserved for a different video, because eventually I'd also like to do an oracle deck, which is way more freestyle. You can pick however many numbers that you want. But for this one, I wanted to, if you go back into some of my videos, you'll hear me talking about having ADHD. So I'm also going to talk about how I learned tarot, all 78 little nuggets of chaos, and hopefully that will help you if you've been interested in it before. I've separated these out to better explain some of them, and I won't be going through every single card, but I wanted to give you more of the logic of my approach and how I helped solidify it in my brain. It's still a very intuitive thing where, especially because I have ADHD, like I said, I do forget things and I stare at things a little bit harder. But before we start, I wanted to, this is the Nicholas Bruno tarot deck, which is, he's one of my very favorite artists, and not sponsored, I just think his stuff is really cool. So we have the major arcana, which is what most people recognize as like the very, very spooky tarot deck, quintessential imagery. I mean, the names at least. So we have the Sun, the Hermit, Death, things like that. But I will get to that in just a minute. The basic things that will help you jump off into reading more intuitively without having to look up as much, which isn't bad, but if you're reading for somebody else and you just don't have access to wherever you look up things. We have the coins and swords and cups and wands. And starting with the coins, which is in traditional decks is typically called Pentacles. Just, I think that's his artist logo, so he changed it to coins. Some decks do that. Because pentacles and coins are associated with the tangible resources. So in a lot of readings, you'll hear whoever's reading for you tell you that it's associated with earth. And it's like you can go out and touch the tree. You can go out and there's literally the grass right there. You can feel the coins jingle in your pocket. Or new coffee table, or you just got the car fixed. So we have 5 of coins. 4, 8. And so swords are, aside from being a weapon, aside from that, are an item that's made to take action with. It can look pretty on the wall and all that, but it's really meant for actions. Swords are typically associated with the element of fire because it's active and changing. So this could be something with like initiative. You're making new friends, or you really need to like get on top of the dishes. And so we have cups, which again are items that hold liquids. Bleh. And cups are associated with the element of water, which is very adaptable and emotional, and consider your own like psyche a really big teacup, and sometimes you need to keep it within the vessel, but other times it's like a watering can and it's meant to pour out. So these are more emotional states. Like if you're asking about relationship questions, or there's someone mad at you and you don't know why. And then comes wands, which typically, at least in movies and stories, you go like that, up in the air. Wands is associated with air, and essentially realities that you can't see. It's heavily associated with spirituality. Things that you can't see with your eyeballs, like coins, but still affect things. And then we have cross-referencing with numbers, which is, oh, where'd it go? Starting with Ace of Coins. Number 1 typically means some kind of new opportunity that associates itself with the theme of the suit. So Ace of Coins is some kind of new financial opportunity, or something like you have an ability to help someone else. Like finding a quarter on the ground, or even a $5 bills. Kitty. But then there's 4, which is associated with stability. Like you've stacked 4 blocks on top of each other, and since it's even all around, then it's not really going to move unless something comes at it sideways. So 4 of coins typically signifies you have some financial stability. It's not as stable as, for instance, 10 of coins, which is very large and complete, and something that has come to fruition, but you have some good stance. 3 of coins, in contrast with 2 of coins. 2 of coins is an outside opportunity, like you're shaking hands with someone or just some other force, while 3 of coins is very collaborative. You have a couple friends and you're going in on something, or everybody else is working something out. So while typical suits here are numbers, as I said, these are based, this is what we consider a regular card deck to be based on, so it does have some other face cards, no pun intended. So we have Knight of Coins, King of Coins, Queen, and Page. Page is like a kid that's getting into a hobby, or in the deck that I am currently drawing off and on, this is more likely going to be called the Apprentice. Kind of like in the Ace of Coins, it's more of a fully fleshed version of opportunity. You're beginning something and you're not the best at it yet, but it's always good to go at it enthusiastically, unless some people read inverted cards. So if page of coins upright is new opportunity, you're immature or an apprentice in something, you're very much a novice, it's a good idea to approach it enthusiastically like a kid. But inverted means you might be missing something. You might be going into things too fast. Maybe be a little bit more mature about it. Knight of Cups is the more mature of the suit, where you know more of what you're doing and you should have confidence in yourself. Inverted is maybe you're having a little too much confidence. Just because you have a title doesn't mean you know everything. And in a lot of decks, things are still very gendered, which is why I'm trying to shake things up and use some different names of cards. Queen of Coins tends to be more about female intuition, the softer skills, versus King of Coins is typically read as more diplomatic, more... this would be more of an artist, this would be more of a lawyer. Okay, and here we go. And I know dirty table is what you came here for, right? Just as much as I clean the whole table, you can... That's for another video, I guess. I have also sectioned out all of what's termed the major arcana. I'm just going to go through them one by one, and then I'll show you some of the art that I have completed in time for this video whenever it comes out, hopefully this Saturday, because life is chaos, and I just want to sit down and have some tea. The sun typically means, if you're watching this and you're into astrology, the sun is like your overarching, like, main core of yourself. And since this is the daytime light, it's often like what you present to other people, the core of like your being, the vibe that you give off. The hermit is, depending on your background, you might say, oh, that's a bad card, like that means some bad things. But none of these are necessarily good or bad. They're just telling you something of an archetype, like a concept that puts its feelers out into other things, and then you can do a reading, see the bigger picture. The hermit is kind of withdrawing from socialization, not in a good or bad way, but being more alone with yourself. A lot of this deals with introspection and things that you have to rely on yourself, and getting a better look at who you really are. And reversed can be kind of in a negative sense of you're withdrawing, you're not being social in positive ways. And death is one that Hollywood really likes to play up, like, oh no, you're gonna die, but no, that's not what it means. Death is the end of something and the beginning of something else. There are going to be major changes in the situation, and we'll get to that. The Lovers is also one Hollywood likes to show as in romantic love. Oh, you're gonna get married, someone's gonna propose, whatever. The Lovers, in the sense of twos in the minor arcana, is like in the middle. You're holding hands, you're cooperating on something. Depending on the type of reading you're doing and the question you have, it might have something to do with romance and in the more traditional sense, but it's more connecting in the middle. It has to do with someone you're thinking about working with, or someone that you wanted to reach out to, or someone proposed in more of a, not a romantic sense. They gave you an idea like, hey, would you like to do this? Judgment. Sometimes this is literally like court cases and stuff, but that pretty much... Sometimes I think this is called justice. Judgment, justice. The Magician, especially if you're looking to get into tarot cards because you're interested in that whole realm of things, this may kind of tie into stuff that you've been thinking about, kind of poke you to say, oh, maybe I should think about that more. Maybe I should dive a little bit deeper into this. Or maybe you're approaching it irresponsibly, and you should be more academic about it, or you should be more intuitive about it. The Tower is always a fun card. The Tower is typically about something that you've gone through, like you've been stuck in a tower, you've had to deal with this being your primary focus for quite a long time, or there's something in your past. The Devil is fun. Again, Hollywood really likes to sensationalize some of these, but it's not actually how they're typically used. The devil is more in the sense of there's something going on that is more than meets the eye. Where kind of in the sense of when you do watch a scary movie, oh, someone's possessed. There's kind of another side to things. You need to really step back, look at your perspective again, evaluate things. It's not even that something horrible is going to happen, but at one point I was looking for something that I lost in the house, and I was getting really, really angry because I couldn't find it. So because I wanted to take a break, but I was still thinking about it, I did a tarot reading, and I pulled the devil. And I interpret it as perspective, where you should get more information, more sides to the story. But I sat down on the floor, and I realized it was under something that I couldn't see when I was standing up, frantically looking for it. Hierophant, let me see if... That is an old creepy word that, as far as I remember, is kind of like priest. And again, a lot of tarot decks nowadays, there are some that come out that are less gendered, tend to be very clinical about, oh, the masculine side is more logical, like lawyering and like diplomatic, and the feminine side is more abstract and emotional. And so I do like all of the art on this deck, and I use it, but the tarot deck that I have designed doesn't use that particular wording on things. But this is the Hierophant, which is essentially the priest. There's something going on where you need to not necessarily form a ritual, but you need to approach it very methodically, even if it's more of an abstract. It may not fix it, but it can help you in the long run. Wheel of Fortune is fun. There is something that will happen or has happened that seems like it's completely out of the blue, and depending on the other cards in the reading, it may indicate, oh, you're about to have some good luck, or hey, tread carefully, because you're not in control of everything. You may have some bad luck if you press this too hard or too fast. The Moon is also one of my favorite cards. In astrology, your sun sign, and I don't do a lot of astrology, but I do like it as a kind of a conversation piece when people do identify with it. So your sun sign is more of your overarching sense of self and like the core of who you are, what you project to the world. Your moon sign is more of your emotions and internal aspects. So the tarot card, the Moon, is more... I'm sure some people would debate this, but it's more like your dark side, the side that not everybody sees, the internal workings of how you're thinking. Temperance is fairly self-explanatory, especially when you're doing a large reading. This can tell you to kind of, okay, slow down, take a look. You don't need to be on fire all the time. Me. Okay, I'm alive. Strength. This is one that slots into a lot of other cards because it's very contextual. The World. I haven't had a lot of readings that have this card pull up, maybe because I think very locally and try to get local goods and support local businesses. But this, generally, it means big picture. And sometimes it literally means travel. You're going to go see the world, but it's the setting that you're in. The Empress is more on the, like we talked about, pentacles tend to be things that you can literally touch and reach out and grab. Empress and Emperor, somewhere in here, we can talk about that, are kind of like pentacle leaning in my estimation. So it's feminine energy, and the Empress is physical resources, literal things from a feminine energy side. The Chariot is about travel or going somewhere that you'd rather not be. In a different tarot deck that I've been outlining, the Chariot is an ambulance, which can be something that saves you or you just really don't want to be there. The Star is placed between the concepts of the sun and moon. It's more of a spiritual card, the lots of little things in your life that add up to you. The Hanged Man is when you're hesitating on something, or you should be hesitating to take a look at it. It's kind of a parallel to Temperance, where in Temperance, it's, oh, hey, you can go, but go very carefully. have some temperance, but the Hanged Man is more of a, like, whoa, hold up. Or, depending on the context of the reading, it could be acknowledging that you're having trouble making a decision. You're hung up on something. High Priestess. This is the parallel to the Hierophant. It's more of the, again, feminine energy in a priest setting, more of a, like, you don't necessarily need to make this whole convoluted ritual to approach the topic that you're thinking about, but maybe you should be a little more methodical, kind of a balance between the abstract and the concrete. Procedural, but flexible. The Emperor, like I said, down in there, it's more masculine energy with the physical, the real, tangible, touchable things. The Fool, it's one of my many favorite cards. The Fool is traditionally someone who's jumping off a cliff or about to step off a cliff because he's just tra-la-la. So I do like a good deck won't just have pictures of like when there's the suits, it won't just have 5 pentacles drawn on there. It'll have the conceptual meaning on it. Where the Fool is someone who's very carefree and very abstract and kind of just doing what they want. And readings are contextual, so this can mean something like you are very carefree and abstract and you're having a great time. Maybe you should calm down a bit, be less of the Fool so that you can connect to other things that are going on. Or it can be maybe you need to be more expressive, be cool with yourself. And I don't know, Justice and Judgment. I'm going to have to study that again too, because if anyone ever tells you that they are a tarot expert and there's nothing that ever pops up that they need to kind of think about, don't get readings from that person, honestly. Justice is more of external. The situation has more of a, there will be a closure. Or depending on the other cards, you want closure, and other cards tell you how you might go about getting that. Judgment, now that I'm remembering this is a separate card, is more a personal thing. More of a person-to-person versus the bare bones of the situation. The Star. Also based on what I was describing for that card earlier. This has some spiritual connotations to it, but I'm going to save up some more in-depth descriptions until I'm maybe halfway through. The Moon. This is based on some reference pictures of somebody that I know who graciously allowed me to do so. And the Tower, which is based off a real place. So, this one is not finished, but the Sun, again representing a very overarching projection of self, but like in a good way, depending on the reading. Not quite done, it needs some black versus shades of gray, but Ten of Swords, which is a very complete collection of this, that, and the other thing. Practical things, shiny things. And if you'd like to see some of the suit cards that I've almost completed, they are in a previous video, and I try to do a monthly tarot update, which kind of puts positive pressure on me to get something done from last month. And I also do personal tarot readings for whatever you'd like to donate, because it's just something that I practice, and I know not everybody is well versed in it. It's whether you see it as entertainment or like a meditation introspection kind of thing, we can talk about that. But that's what I've been doing so far, and I consider myself a storyteller, which touches every aspect of the art that I do. I like the atmosphere, I like sending the messages, kind of poking your brain so that you think a little bit differently or think a little bit harder. And if that's your vibe, I would love a subscription, maybe a like on this video, and I will see you next time.